that's the interesting thing about, like charcuterie boards or even like, duck confit. Historically, these, now they're popularized, but, historically they're preservation for when people did not have a refrigerator.
Right. That's all it was.
And it was, these dry cured sausages, some of the pâtés and terrines, like they're encased in fat. The duck confit, it's salted and cured and then slowly cooked in the duck fat, and then they just put it in those mason jars, to seal the lid and keep the oxygen out. But it's in the cold cellar. Like it was all that's the really interesting part for me as a chef, is learning about the traditions and then, why these things are popular today, but they're actually for preservation.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Buck Junkie Podcast. I know it's been a minute. We've had a lot going on, and we're going to get into that these next few podcasts, what we've been doing this deer season or since the holidays. But today we got a special guest here with us, our buddy Michael Hunter from Antler in Toronto, Canada. And he's come all the way down here to hang out with us this past weekend. And, hey, we're going to tell y'all all what we did. Michael, thank you for coming down, man.
Thanks so much for having me. I love Mississippi, and this is a different part of the state that I'm used to going to. So really happy to be here and hope to come back soon.
I'll tell you what, we're going to have to get to Canada, do some hunting with you.
100%.
Come on.
We have had a blast this weekend, haven't we, guys?
Yeah. I just hope we made it all worth it for the travel to come from Canada to Mississippi and make that worth it,
It sounds like it's such a long way, but you flew to Nashville?
It's 2 hours to Nashville, and then it was a 3.5, 4 hour drive.
That's not bad travel day.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I actually drove to West Point, Mississippi in 16 hours. It's a 10-hour shot to Nashville and then 4 hours from there.
That's a pretty long day there.
Yeah.
But that's where we met. I think Mikey and I went down to the Foxhole Shootout, and that's a big event that Mossy Oak puts on, raising money for kids with cancer.
Yeah. I think it's St. Jude's and Catch a Dream are the two sort of main foundations.
That's right. But you were down there and you were cooking some wild hogs, and me and Mikey were just hanging out, and you gave me some wild hog that you take. I swear it's the best wild hog I've ever had. But I was so amazed, and then we just kind of hit it off, man. We became buddies.
Yeah, I saw you there, and I'd seen, your videos and your YouTube stuff, and then I saw that you were there, and I was like, oh, cool, I got to give him, some of my barbecue. And barbecue's not my thing at all. It's something I like to play around with. So when I saw you, I was like, oh, I got to give you some wild hog barbecue.
Well, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do up in Canada.
Yeah. So I'm a professional chef. I've worked in kitchens over half my life. It started out as a teenager. I rode my bike to a local gas station in a little town. Like I didn't grow up in the city. I was outside. I grew up on a horse farm, and I rode my bike to like the nearest gas station and applied to pump gas. And I was 13 years old, and the guy didn't need any help at the gas station, but he owned the diner also that was on the corner, and just threw me in the kitchen. And I was just doing little things, buttering toast and dropping hash browns and working the fryer and washing dishes. And, I kind of liked it. It was fun. And, I did that for a couple of years, maybe probably about a year. And then, I got good at it. They wanted me to work the griddle, and I was doing eggs and, more the main stuff. And then, I had friends that were working at the local golf course, and, there was cute girls working there, and I ended up going there. There was a little bit more money, and, I started doing the breakfast thing again, and then they do weddings at night at the golf course. So they'd keep me late to work the weddings, and I just loved it. It was very social. It's lots of young people. It's kind of high energy, adrenaline. Everyone's drinking after work and stuff. It's a big party,
And you're 13.
Yeah. I was probably 15 at that point, but you're in high school and just having fun. And I really started to love food when the golf course closed for the winter. I wound up working at a fine dining restaurant. And it was like a little country inn type place. And, that's where I really fell in love with food. The chef was very passionate, but he made everything from scratch. He made bread. He made, pasta dough from scratch. He made, some charcuterie, salamis and things like that. And that's where I really fell in love with food. And it just went on from there. You just keep going down rabbit holes of things you want to learn. And that's the best thing about this career is it's a never ending learning. Like I come down here and I'm working with you guys, and I'm learning all kinds of stuff about barbecue that I've never, even thought about or knew before. And it's just, the barbecue world's a whole other world of, cooking for me that is a lot of fun. So
yeah, we have a blast with it, but we got into, that's what we do for a living.
yeah.
And we're doing the Buck Junkies, the hunting stuff we do because we like it. And so, but it's interesting what you've done. So Michael, you kind of cut your teeth starting out in the industry. I know you probably went to culinary school, right?
I did. Yeah. So I did an interesting program. I did a apprenticeship program where I went to school on my 2 days off, and then I went to work for the rest of the week. So I was in the kitchen 7 days a week for 2 years, but I was able to make money while going to school, which was really important for me because I had a little baby girl at home when I was 19 years old. So, I was really driven to make something of myself and support my new family.
So how did you end up deciding you wanted to tie the hunting side in with the game and in a restaurant setting and going all natural and all that stuff, using fresh ingredients? How did that come about?
That was kind of a natural progression. I didn't start hunting for food until I was maybe 18 years old. I grew up on a horse farm, and my mom did the hunter jumper kind of show stuff with the horses, but she also was into fox hunting on horseback with hounds. My family background was English, and it was just like a hobby, fun sport, social activity. And the huntsman of the hounds was a really good family friend of ours, and kind of like father figure to me almost in a way. And he took me hunting for turkeys when I was 18. And I think growing up I'd had moose stew and like the odd venison dish and something, but unless you have something to compare it to, I don't think you really make a connection with it. Whereas turkey, everybody grows up eating that stuff at Christmas or Thanksgiving. And, a lot of times it's not done very well. And, so when I had wild turkey for the first time, it just like blew my mind how amazing the flavor was and how different it was to farm raised birds that, my aunt or grandma would put in the oven for 12 hours and absolutely, ruin.
Completely dry out.
Completely dry it out. So, and then at culinary school, they're teaching you, you have to start with the very best ingredients and then you don't have to really do much to it. So, at that time, I'd also seen that documentary Food Inc. had come out, and I think that Michael Pollan was the director or the author of the book. And, he was interviewing, family ranchers and stuff like that, and talking about, all the antibiotics and hormones that goes into the factory raised stuff. And it's just in their feed. And it kind of opened my eyes that, I don't want to eat all this processed stuff. I want to eat a more natural diet. So I went home and I think I started, a vegetable garden when I was still a teenager. I just started hunting, and it was kind of just a slow progression that like, I wanted to eat more natural stuff and I wanted to just harvest it myself. And, but the hard part when, you're working for someone else, but in my early 20s, you have no control what's on the menu. You're cooking, whatever they're telling you to cook, and you're learning and, understanding how a business and restaurant, runs and works. So I kept wanting to feature, a wild game recipe or some kind of, dish that was important and that I was passionate about. And, when I was a sous chef and a head chef, the owners would, let me do a feature, but I couldn't really do a whole menu that was game. And I think that was really what, inspired me to open my own restaurant, was that I want to cook what I want to eat at home. And I want to cook how, I want to cook what I'm passionate about. And it just sort of led us to opening our own restaurant.
So is all the recipes and the preparation of the game and the stuff like that, the stuff that you just kind of self-taught at that point, or did you have people working with you like that kind of taught you how to cook these different animals? Because it is challenging. Like to me, I mean, we know what it's like to cook domestic raised stuff, but
yeah, the wild game was definitely a learning curve. The first time I shot a Canada goose, I was all excited. I plucked the thing out. It took forever to pluck it. I wasn't used to, I'd plucked a couple turkeys, but plucking a Canada goose, it was full of down feathers and they're tough birds. And
it's a little different.
It's totally different. And what I didn't know is like they can live till they're like 20, 30 years old. So, I think I definitely shot one that was pushing 30. Man, I put that thing in the oven and I thought I'd just roast it like a turkey. And, I took it out and it was like completely ruined. Like it was like an Indian rubber ball, like for lacrosse, like it was totally inedible. And I was like, there's got to be more to it than this. And, it's taken me a long time to figure out how to cook Canada goose. But, people tell me like, they're a terrible cook or they don't know how to cook. And it's just practice. Like, I started out and that bird was inedible. And, now I make some pretty dang good Canada goose recipes. Yeah. So it's just, a lot of trial and error.
And that's the same thing for us with the barbecue is we were all terrible at one point,
Oh, yeah.
Or not nearly at the level we are now. And there's still room for improvement. Like I'm sure you're the same way. It's a never quit mindset,
Yeah.
You constantly want to get better. And like you say, I mean, I've cooked a brisket that's probably comparable to that goose, so we've all been there.
Yeah.
My question is, so with you having such a strong culinary background and meeting so many people in that world, is wild game pursued by a lot of these culinary chefs, or what is their take on it? What is the main take of a high-end Michelin star chef and wild game, or whatever?
In North America, it's very different than Europe. In Europe, take England, for example, you can buy wild game from local hunters. It's totally legal to sell it. I'm sure there may be some species that aren't allowed to sell, but deer, rabbit, pheasant, ducks, some of the all the kind of normal game stuff for us is available for sale there. So in the classic French recipes, there's they call it squab. It's a young pigeon. Duck, wild boar is huge in Italian culture. Rabbit, all these things are like kind of just common in Europe. I was in Italy last year at this time, and the restaurants all have pheasant, deer, duck, rabbit, like wild boar. It's all super popular in Europe. So yeah, it's a different world over there. A friend of mine's a chef. He's got 3 or 4 restaurants, and he manages a bunch of estate kind of properties. He said he shoots about 500 or 600 roe deer a year because they're I don't know if they're invasive or they're introduced over there, but they've got no natural predators. They don't have wolves, they don't have coyotes. I think their biggest sort of predator is a fox.
Yeah.
So he shoots all these deer a year, and he has a program called Deer Box where it's like a butcher kit, and you can just order it to your door as a consumer, like every week. So it's very different in Europe, and it's more kind of common practice.
But also they have way healthier food in Europe too.
Well, does the average person over there hunt? Or I would think not.
I don't know if the average person hunts, but I think the average person, it's so available in restaurants. Like and it's actually wild. I don't think there's a lot of farms that like we have here, the game farms. It's actually, wild venison over there. It's pretty interesting.
That's a big, I mean, I know here in the States.
Yeah.
You don't hear that.
You don't see wild. I mean, if it's wild game, it's been farmed wild game.
Yeah.
They're not going to let you.
For me in the restaurant.
Canada the same way? Like everything. Yeah. So everything at Antler.
Everything at Antler has to be farmed. The cool part about the game farms is they're a lot smaller operations, and you get to know the farmer. A lot of times it's the farmer, or one of his guys delivering to you at the restaurant. It's not a middleman. But yeah, we work with a lot of local guys, and you get to know the farmers, which is the interesting thing of the game farms.
So do you ever do any like under the not illegal or anything, but like for your friends and family and stuff, so where you're just cooking whatever wild game, but doing it.
Friends or family are coming to the restaurant. Yeah, we're sort of bending the rules in the gray area. We're not supposed to charge for it. So obviously, if you guys are coming, I'd like to do something really fun, and that's like as long as we're not charging for it, it's a lot better. I'm probably breaking some public health rules, but it's not supposed to be in the same fridge as other meat, and there's all this. Yeah. And we can do it for charity, like and we can charge for it for charity, but that money, the profit has to go to the charity for any wild game dish. There's a couple, I think it's the same here. We have to notify public health, and they have to inspect it, and they come by the restaurant. But so we're allowed to use game in the restaurant for certain kind of situations.
But when you're at the house, it's anything goes.
Oh yeah, anything goes at home. Yeah, and we can give it away. We can give it to neighbors and friends and family and stuff like that. And at home, that's I've gotten to the point where we don't buy a lot of meat. We'll buy big steaks for birthdays. In the summertime, we're buying some ribs and chicken wings for the smoker. Yeah. But for the most part, our everyday meals are deer, and I shoot a lot of waterfowl, ducks and geese, and I've started to fish more because I want to eat more. I want to eat more fish in my diet. So I'm, my wife's from the West Coast, and we'll go salmon fishing and then fly everything home in coolers and put it in the freezer.
Yeah. So you're kind of hunter gathering still.
Trying
too.
to be.
Yeah.
Trying to be.
It's a lot of work, and people don't realize that. They think it's an easy way of life, and it's not.
No. Yeah. Unless, you live on, some big acreage or something, it's a lot harder.
It's tricky.
Yeah. So where do you hunt mainly? Is it open,
we have
public land? Do you have a lot of public lands?
Yeah, we have public lands, but we get permission to. So a lot of the farmers, deer, turkey, waterfowl, they're nuisance for their crops. So, and I grew up in kind of farm country, so I know a lot of local farmers that let me hunt. Thankfully, otherwise, you're going with guides and outfitters, or working on public lands. A lot of the ducks and geese you can shoot on the water, which are public waterways. So. That's a little easier to get access to, but thankfully I know a lot of people with farms.
Yeah. So you got a farmer's got some bear on this property? Come shoot.
So the bear is actually all kind of public land stuff, and it's not too far from the city. That's probably the farthest I go, other than moose. Bear, you can go 3 hours north and into bear country and find some public lands.
So what, like you're talking about bears, which is, we got bears around here, but what all parts of that are you
Mikey,
trying to harvest?
Bears are not in Mississippi. You're going to make all the game wardens mad.
So the only thing with the bear that you got to be careful of is the trichinosis factor. Bear scavengers, they're opportunists. If they're, there's a roadkill that's been sitting there, they're going to eat it. So you just got to be careful and cook everything with bear meat well done. So sausages, burgers, pasta sauces, stews. I tell people, when people ask me what's bear like, I say it's kind of like a mix of lamb and beef, together flavor. It's got some gaminess to it, but it's real meaty like beef. But so any kind of lamb recipe I'll use for bear. So I like really spices. Moroccan spices are great with lamb. So like a lamb tagine recipe, if you do it with bear meat, it's phenomenal. Curry with bear makes really great curry. Mexican spices, things like that. Or even just, regular old sausage, putting bear meat in there. Then you don't have to use pork because of all the fat and lard that's on the bear. You could do like deer and bear, or just all straight bear meat. But yeah, it's definitely one of the most underrated game meats. There's a lot of guys that hunt bears as nuisance and for like the fur trade stuff, but they don't eat it. And I've been to some camps where it's one of the predators that legally you don't have to eat the meat in Canada. Anyway, I don't know about the States, but like if you shot a coyote or a wolf or something like that, you're not legally required to eat the meat like you are deer or elk or stuff like that. But I think it's a really great source of protein, and it's tasty.
I've never tried it. I got scared while watching Meat Eater when they did that episode. They ate some undercooked bear. They were just like cooking it on the rocks. They built a fire and were throwing it up there, and then it was serious.
It's serious, yeah. So it can make you really sick. And the funny part, I thought I got it one time, but the funny part is it takes a month before you see symptoms. So that's the kind of the scary part. It kind of comes out of the blue. Yeah, it can be anything. And
Malcolm, you'd set a calendar, 30 days. I'm clear. I'm clear.
Made it. Yeah, but that just says it can in 30. It could at any point, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I went to so what happened with me is I cooked a cougar ham, and it was my birthday. I was drinking.
Cougar ham. Mountain lion,
mountain lion. And you know what? It tastes, people told me it tastes like pork. It really does taste like pork. It is insane.
Man, dude, we had somebody bring us some at Memphis May one time. I don't know.
Really?
I wouldn't even pit it in my mouth.
Oh, I ate it.
Did you eat it?
Yeah.
And
I got to make it for you.
If your pork tastes like that, you doing something wrong, buddy.
I mean, that's what we talked about the other day when we were hunting. A lot of people don't like wild game. My wife didn't like wild game because her daddy just fried the deer meat, and that was pretty much it. Or he made.
And daddy, growing up, didn't season nothing.
Yeah, he didn't season nothing. And Melissa's like, I don't like deer meat. I said, why don't you let me cook it for you? And I cooked it for her, and she eats everything now: deer meat, fish, turkey.
There's a big misconception that wild game's gamey, like it tastes wild or whatever. Well, a lot of it's just uneducated, not knowing how to prepare it. So
yeah,
and I think that lends into why you don't see it in restaurants and stuff like that. Because I mean, that's what this country was built on, game.
Yeah.
Well, if you take a ribeye, for instance, and you put it out there on a grill and you cook it, the smithereens out of it, guess what? It's going to have a liver taste to it.
It's going to be terrible. You can ruin chicken wings, pork loin, ribeye. You can ruin all of it.
If you cook the life out of it, it don't matter what animal it is. It ain't going to be good.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I didn't particularly like pork, and I think we were talking about this the other night. It's like, you take a pork chop and you cook it to smithereens, and it's like dry. You can't even hardly swallow the thing. And now, if you brine that pork chop or just even season it, if it's a quality pork chop, you just season it properly and get it on the grill and cook it to about medium. It's delicious.
Yeah,
and it's like, I didn't know pork could be so tender and juicy. So yeah, I think it's
so in the restaurant. You probably don't do much pork. Do you have wild boar?
Y'all
have wild boar in Canada?
And we do have wild boar. And the farmers that are farming it, they're using like a European breed of pig.
So they've got them in captivity.
They've got them
raising them for market.
Yeah. There was a push for like exotic meats in it was either the 80s or 90s. I was kind of researching it for one of my books, and ostrich was on that list too. There's there was subsidies for farmers wanting to open up a farm and raise ostriches.
They got everybody on the ostrich.
Yeah, they did back in the day.
But, and then it wasn't how we ended up with wild boars in the wild in Canada. For some of them were the farmers, it wasn't as profitable as everyone had hoped it would be, and they just figured they'd let them go and they wouldn't survive the Canadian winters, and they do.
I mean, they do. Russian boars. Yeah. I mean, you don't know how cold it gets there. I mean, those jokers thrive anywhere.
Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of what I've read. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But so there's more of an issue with them in the prairies, like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, but they're starting to make their way to Ontario, where I live. But they're not nearly as big of a problem as other places for us.
Well, how regulated is Canada as far as hunting? I'm sure most people probably do hunt up there. To me, it seems like they would. Yeah,
it's very similar to here. Here, there's a lot of over-the-counter stuff. To get your license, you have to take a hunting course. It's online now in a lot of the provinces, thanks to COVID. But yeah, you do your course, you take the test, you pay your licensing fees, deer, turkey, small game stuff's all over the counter. Deer in some areas, it's sort of limited entry or limited kind of draw. Some areas the doe tags are drawn, or they only release kind of so many. So it's kind of first come, first serve. And then elk, moose, I don't know about caribou in other provinces, but at least where I live, elk and moose are draw only. It's incredibly difficult to get those tags. We party hunt for moose. Is easier to get a tag that way, but you have to share it. So you go with 12 guys and you share a moose.
How does that work? Y'all all hunt the same animal? Or
yeah, so everyone has to be within contact. So now with radios and satellite, Garmin devices and inReach stuff, it's a lot easier to communicate. But you have to be within, I think it's a couple miles of each other, and available on some sort of communication device. And it's kind of like whoever pulls the trigger first.
Oh, you got to let everybody know so you don't kill multiple.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so usually in a group you can get like a bull. Sometimes there'll be two bull tags. Sometimes there'll be a bull tag and a cow tag or whatever. But I've just never been the guy to pull the trigger yet. So I've been on lots of those hunts. They're usually like one time we drove 20 hours north to go to moose camp, and we set up spike tents, and guys got their side by sides, and someone will bring a little fishing boat, and usually those lakes are incredible fishing because they're pretty untouched, and there's rough grouse all over the roads and in the bush and stuff. So they're generally a really, really fun trip. But yeah, I've never shot one yet.
Yeah, man, that sounds like fun. It sounds a lot like the way our alligator hunting it.
Yeah,
you can take, as long as somebody draws the permit, you can take two boats. And,
yeah. Just the person with the permit must be present when the gator comes out of the water.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. That's on my list. I kind of like gator meat. It's definitely an exotic for us up north, but
I guarantee you don't have those.
No, we do not have gators. Not yet. Who knows what's going to happen, but, I definitely, I love that meat, and I want to do something cool with the hide one day.
I'm putting in for tags this year. Jody, I know will. Rachel will. Emily's going to put in. So
wife's going to put in.
Because it gives you better odds.
Yeah, so my wife and all my kids have their hunting license now, and we put in for everything together.
So my wife, my buddy Jody, his wife, and me, we're all putting in for gator tags.
Yeah.
So when it comes time, hopefully one of us will get drawn, but we'll definitely go for sure.
Awesome.
We can make that happen.
Okay.
We'll be rookies, dude, because I ain't never been either. So
have you been before?
No, I've never been on a gator hunt. No, I'm pumped. It's a bucket list for me.
They've got a bunch of them down around West Point down there, and close to there.
Gators down there.
Well, wasn't they talking about killing gators down there at one time when they get their tags?
They do pull for tags. I didn't know where they were. Yeah,
because I know we went to one of the camps where, it was right over by the golf course. There were gators over there.
That's right. We went to Matt's that fish camp.
Remember the river?
The
river that comes through there, but. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was telling us about the alligators. You
went looking for them. Remember, we could hear them.
Yeah, we
hear a bunch of little ones. Mikey just took off. We lost him for about 30 minutes. Where's he at? He's probably trying to go catch one of them damn gators. We'd never seen one up here.
I thought that'd be pretty cool because I could hear them out there, and I was like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm just, grabbing frogs and just come back up here with
a little one,
with this little gator.
Like catching frogs.
So you started coming down to Mississippi hunting, and I know you mainly it's deer hunting and hog hunting. Yeah,
so it's been, for the most part deer hunting, and then I've absolutely got incredibly addicted to hog hunting at night with thermals, and it's like playing video games or something. It's such a blast, and a lot of the guys down here, they don't eat the meat, and I think it's awesome. It's as long as you get sort of like a medium sized kind of young boar or sow, it's incredibly tasty.
What's your favorite way to prepare it?
I grind a lot of it and use it in sausages or pasta sauces and stuff like that. I've been sous videing the loins. There's kind of some interesting research behind, cooking it, because wild boar's another one that can have parasites like trichinosis or like the bears do. So there's some interesting research out there about sous videing something at a lower temperature but for a longer amount of time actually pasteurizes and kills bacteria and parasites. So I've been playing around with that, using myself as a guinea pig, and so far so good. But, I think you get some really incredible results. Cooking wild game in a sous vide apparatus.
Yeah, Mark kind of taught me about that with chicken.
Yeah,
it was like you could take chicken and sous vide it at a lower temp. It's all about the time, and that's how cooking works. I mean, it's got does it cook it fast if you take it to 165? Yeah, it only has to stay there for how many? It's some seconds.
It's 165 will kill instantly within a second.
But 140 will. It's just got to go for.
It's got to be there for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, however long it is. So I found that really interesting. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I've been playing around with that with the loins and stuff. In Italy they'll take wild boar and they make a dry cured ham out of it, and it's not even cooked at all. So I don't know if
Would you do that?
Here, I don't know. It's
there ain't no way I need that Mississippi. Ain't no way.
I don't know. But if it's been dry cured and hanging for a year, like prosciutto, they age for a year, sometimes longer. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting, and they do some dry cured sausages and they hang those up. So I don't know. They do it in Europe, but maybe they're kind of different than here.
It amazes me figuring out
how you learn
how they learned, how many people got sick and died figuring out this is the technique. We need to take this to this temperature. It needs to hang for this long. It's safe to eat, cured. Well, this one's not. I mean,
I think that's where our life expectancy is double than historically. But
because you imagine being like little Ricky on the farm runs up and be like, "Hey, try this ham."
Yeah,
it's only been hanging 3 weeks. Well, Ricky dies. All right, we're gonna go 4 now. All right,
that's why they had a bunch of kids back then.
Yeah,
that's the interesting thing about like charcuterie boards or even like duck confit. Historically these now they're popularized, but historically they're preservation for when people did not have a refrigerator.
Right, that's all it was.
And it was these dry cured sausages. Some of the pâtés and terrines, like they're encased in fat. The duck confit, it's salted and cured and then slowly cooked in the duck fat, and then they just put it in those mason jars to seal the lid and keep the oxygen out. But it's in the cold cellar. Like it was all that's the really interesting part for me as a chef, is learning about the traditions and then why these things are popular today, but they're actually for preservation.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like, if you talk about, like, charcuterie boards, some of those cuts of meats up there, if you were to try to explain how they taste, like, some of them, like, I love it, But if you try to explain to somebody like what this tastes like, you're like, well, it's got a little age and a little sourness to it. Like that don't sound good. But why is that's palatable and that's good to us? Like, because if you think about it, like, all right, for instance, dry aged beef. If you told me it had mold on it and it tastes like blue cheese, I don't want it.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want my beef to taste like blue cheese.
You go ahead and do you.
But it's still like once you taste it, you're like, that's pretty dang good. You know, like it's still appeasing to the person, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like it's weird. I'm almost like you. Like, why is it something that's that old of technology or technique still great today? You know? So what was your best bite this weekend? I always ask everybody because we had a mix of every flavor out there.
The ribs that you cooked last night, probably some of the best ribs I've ever had in my life. So that was really cool. You know, seeing how you guys take apart the pork butt, you know, for competitions and stuff. I've never seen, you know, we pull pork, we just pull everything. Like I didn't, you know, separating the muscles out and, you know, presenting that as a competition kind of plate first, I thought was really, really cool. What else did we do this weekend? The breakfast stuff, you know, the sausage biscuits, things like that. It's something I've had before. Yeah. The sausage gravy, like I've had that stuff before. But it's definitely a treat when I come down here.
You come hang out with us. We're gonna put some weight on you then if you like gravy. That's a daily. Mark likes to make a daily gravy.
You gotta have gravy in your life. And see, that's a prime example. Is what you just talked about is stuff we take for granted, and stuff you brought down here that we fell in love with. Yeah, it's stuff you probably take for granted that's in your daily life.
My best bite was that pate. Duck liver pate. I've never had anything like that.
Well, that's in my cookbook.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll show you. That's right. Oh yeah. So. Y'all check this out. Not only is Michael an amazing hunter, amazing chef, he's also an author, and this is his first book, the Hunter Chef Cookbook. You've got a new book coming out.
New book's coming out, yeah. Fall 2025. So that's going to be really exciting. You know, I wanted to do more of a barbecue theme book, but barbecue's not my thing, and I'm not an expert. But it was more over the fire recipes.
Yeah.
So cooking over the fire is something that I do very well. I love doing. We've done lots of events where we do, you know, live fire and whole animal stuff. I've cooked whole deer, you know, many times now, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, is cooking over the fire. So the second book is more over the fire themed. Is the sort of teaser I'll put up there. But.
Heck yeah.
So
we got to do some hunting this weekend.
That's what I say. Let's pan out the weekend and start it from the top.
You came in. We got delayed. We had all this weather come in on us. So last Friday, a blizzard hit Mississippi, but I guess it hit the rest of the country because you were flying in Nashville. Your first flight got delayed a day.
Yeah, my first flight was canceled. They canceled all incoming flights from international destinations. And they said I could fly through New York, and I just didn't want to risk getting stuck in New York. So I came a day late, and just, you know, we hit the ground running and ran out to the woods.
So yeah, as soon as you hit, I said, all right, man, good to meet you. I mean, you know, it's glad to see you. You're going to be staying over here. Get your stuff on. We're going.
I don't even think I seen him till that night.
Yeah.
Like, I think you were hunting too.
Yeah, we just met each other in passing. Hey, how you doing?
Well, Mikey guided. So y'all went and set in the stand. I dropped them off, and we went over to our other property here, and we was just hoping that you could see some deer because we didn't know what they were going to do. All that snow was on the ground. It usually freaks our animals out. They're not used to seeing it. But Mikey, you want to tell us how the hunt went?
Yeah. So, I mean, we had some other guests in camp just a few days before, you know, and it was just not very good.
Didn't hardly see any deer.
For some reason, the deer just did not move before this, you know, winter storm came in, and I was a little worried. I was like, well, anyways, we took him to one of our better stands, which is, we call it Crossroads or whatever. And it was getting kind of late. And usually we see deer there starting fairly early, you know. And anyways, it's getting pretty late, and we're looking down the thing, and Michael said, here's a deer at the end of the field. So I was just going to turn him loose on the first deer we seen. Just shoot it. Well, anyways, it wound up being a couple of small button heads or whatever. And they come up and kind of milled around and fed in the plot out there and stuff. And anyways, we were sitting there, and all three of them were button heads. You know, really don't want to have to
tough
shoot them. Yeah. We didn't want to shoot button heads, but anyways, we were wanting a mature doe or a decent buck or something like that. And it just looked like it was not going to happen. And then finally, we see this doe slipping down the edge of the woods, and she got a buck with her. And he was a pretty young buck, and he'll be a nice one in a couple of years. But anyways, that doe came out and was like, all right, there's the mature doe.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize that you would give Michael.
So I didn't want him to have to fly with his firearm. I said, man, we got plenty of guns. And I shoot at 3 others. So I was like, well, maybe he's really comfortable with it. Let us send him. I know it's on. That's like sending him, what's your?
Well, it was on. Right. It was on.
That was, yeah. That's my version of old Betsy or whatever. Like, you got to have somebody shoot your gun as on. Shoot that one.
It did not go far.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Michael told me, he's like, what?
It's really not a meat hunting gun, is it? It's not a meat hunting gun, is it?
Oh, no.
Well, see, I didn't know he was meat hunting. I thought I was wanting him to go shoot a big buck.
Yeah, because he was trying to pick out, like, he was like, I'm not going to shoot it through the shoulders because I don't want to tear up no meat. And I was like, man, that's a 300 Magnum.
Hey,
I don't know what this.
I'll tell you what,
this close.
You could decapitate one with it. It'll take a doe's head off.
Well, that's it. I was waiting for like the perfect shot. She was just quartering away, and I slipped it right behind her shoulder and out in the front of the shoulder on the other side, and it just kind of blew the chest out, underneath the
heart and everything.
Oh, heart was blown in two. There was a 4-inch hole in her, and I cannot believe a fist-sized hole in this doe's chest. I cannot believe she ran 20 yards, whatever it was. But yeah, it was a decent blood trail to track her.
I don't know if we could show that for the graphic nature of it.
Yeah, because we did videos.
So it was a 12-inch wide blood trail in the snow.
You text me, it was about 5:15, said, "Deer down, come on get us." And I done dropped y'all off, so I headed that way. Well, I pulled into the field and going down about, I don't even know. I was probably still 150 yards from where I saw y'all because I could see the orange up in the woods. And I was like, damn, there's the blood trail. And it was just like you took a 5-gallon bucket and just up the hill. I was like, my goodness, that's how you trail them. You didn't have no trouble trailing that one.
No.
She didn't go far, though.
No, she was 20 yards. Yeah, nothing.
They're tough animals.
Yeah.
I cannot.
They're very
I
resilient.
wouldn't make it 5 feet if I had a hole in me that size.
So we came back that night after the hunt, got her hanging. Y'all, cleaned the field dress and everything, and then we ate duck gumbo that night. We made a heck of a pot of duck gumbo.
That was
I don't know if you do many gumbos, but that's something that we take pride in is our gumbo. But
Gumbo, potato salad, homemade French bread.
Oh man, it was up. But then the next day, I don't think you didn't get up and hunt Saturday morning, did we?
No, we went out Saturday. We went out in the evening.
Yes,
for hogs.
Yeah, so that's right. So we hunted Saturday afternoon. I think you saw some deer, didn't you?
Yeah,
just nothing that you really wanted to shoot, and then we went and we got to do some thermal hog hunting with our buddy Miles.
Yeah.
And Mark, you can tell about that.
Well, so in Mississippi, it's snow on the roads. We park our trucks and we get the side-by-sides out, and we ride everywhere on side-by-sides. Well, we'd never made an excursion quite like this because we left here and, our buddy Miles lives, what do you think that's about 7-8 miles from here?
Yeah.
Maybe
10 minute ride, quick 5-10 minute ride, not far.
He ain't far at all. So we went and picked him up. We had thermals. We got everything set up, went to his farm. He has a pretty substantial farm, so we can cover some ground and never leave his property. And little did we know, we looked up on the maps and we were fishing across the bridge going into Arkansas.
We were 3 counties away on the side by side at night.
And never touched asphalt.
Yeah. So had you hunted hogs like that? Is that kind of similar to the way y'all do it?
Well, I haven't done it. We haven't covered probably that much ground, but definitely riding around side by sides with thermals and ARs at night is my new favorite pastime.
It's a good time.
We shot a cow. We got on 3 hogs. They tried to get in the vehicle.
Yeah, that was an accident.
And then we chased them a little bit, but we couldn't. You actually got to shoot at them.
I did.
They were running.
They were running. Yeah, they were a little bit far, and they were running through the woods. But yeah, it was a good time.
I would love to take you to see that. So you got the North Delta tour. That was my side by side at night with thermals. I would love to take you back over to the Delta because it is a unique place. It's really close to us. I mean, we're not in the Delta right here. We're kind of still considered hills. Yeah, but you get to the Delta real fast. I mean, 8 miles away.
It's hard to explain the Delta to somebody that's never seen the Delta.
Yeah.
Because you tell them it's just flat. Well, yeah, it's just flat, but it's more to it, and it's, I don't know.
Well, you can see how the animals were at night even because they're going to be in the draws, in the creeks, in the rivers that run through there. That's the growed up areas. And that's Mikey, that's kind of where you started out hunting.
Yeah. I mean, that Delta's, it's a lot different. I mean, it's got a lot of diversity in terrain and stuff just because like all the little cypress sloughs and the old oxbow lakes that are here and there and old river beds that may not, creek beds that may not be there no more. Farmers may have done something with the creek, rerouted the creek or something to be able to farm a certain amount of land. Or
it's way different now than it was. Probably even because it's all landform now. You didn't have that back then, so you had a lot more natural sloughs and draws and all that.
Yeah, now, now more and more of it's that natural stuff, those big cypress trees and cypress breaks and stuff like that are kind of disappearing. Just, I guess, farming and them clearing land and more.
Do you know, I found it interesting. Miles told us, I think it was, what year did he say it was? Was it 84?
It was 80 something.
1984. You can't reclaim that's it. The farm bill that they did back then, that was all the natural. Everything has to stay the way it is now.
So you can't do no more.
You can't take out
clear and make the field.
Yeah, they won't let you do it. Yep. I thought I didn't know that because I figured farmers were still, it's just like where we are in the urban areas. They're taking everything out and putting taking out old
fields
farms and putting in neighborhoods basically.
Yeah, because there's a lot of pretty woods that was in that delta that I hunted as a kid, and
they're gone now.
Large tracts of forest, old hardwoods and stuff that have been just wiped. They just wiped them out.
If we can get you to one of now,
something like that.
So you saw the delta from the ag standpoint at night. Now there's a whole different delta over the Mississippi River levee. Now that's the old growth. A lot of those camps haven't changed in decades, and you're talking old timber. It's not a lot of I guess there is some paper company land, but most of it's old growth timber. They do some ag over there, but it floods so much because it's all dependent on the Mississippi River levee, and that's what feeds it. And man, you want to talk about a hunter's paradise. It's the best hunting in the state.
It's a jungle.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's
back when I was in high school. I guess it would have probably been 2005. Had a big flood on the other side of the levee, and you can go exactly where we went, riding side by side, and pull up on a field that's a mile from the levee, and there'd be 400 deer standing in it because the flood had pushed them all in there, and they didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
and they're literally out there by the casinos, out there in the middle of the fields, and it would be just hundreds of deer huddled up in the middle of the field, and it looked like ants. And they closed deer season down for that reason because it was like catching fish in a bucket. You just go out there and get one. So the wildlife on the other side of that levee is unfathomable. Like it's a different world over there, and we're not that far from it. I mean, we're only, I don't even imagine it's 20 miles from here, really. Maybe.
As a crow flies, not at all. Yeah.
So the Delta's cool, but we covered a lot of ground. We seen a ton of wildlife, seen a ton of hogs, coons, possums, coats,
geese, ducks.
I
couldn't believe you guys had snow geese. Like we were hearing them in the field, and
they're
by the millions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've never seen them in West Point, but I guess it's a different flyway.
They're flying the river.
Is that something you mastered cooking?
Snow goose took me a very long time to learn how to roast one whole. So we shot a young one, a bunch of young ones, and you can tell because the younger ones, they have like really light, dark gray feathers, like they haven't really come into the white plumage yet. So I kept a couple of the young ones, and I wanted to experiment with roasting them. And I found, I tried ovens, I tried the grill. The best results I had with a snow goose was pizza oven, and I can't remember if it was, I just remember it was hot, like it was above 600 700 degrees and around there. So I got the skin because I find the farm birds, you can get a crispy skin like a farm turkey. You can get a real nice crispy skin on a farm turkey, and it's so much harder to get a crispy skin on a wild turkey. So for the goose, I tried all these things, and I was like, I'm just going to put this in like a 750 degree pizza oven. And that skin got incredibly crispy, and the meat inside was still medium rare. And it probably was in there for like 10, 15 minutes or something, like not long at all. And it was delicious, but that's taken me about 10 years of trial and error to figure that one out.
Let's go get with them. Try more. You got a pizza.
I got to do better because the last one I cooked was.
We tried. It
can be greasy.
Well, I mean, it tasted good, but it just had a smell.
Okay.
Like it was a swamp ass smell is what it was.
That's a good way to describe it.
And whether stuff is different. Like when I'm up north, 6-7 hour flight north of here, shooting them in farmland, it's probably a totally different flavor, and they're eating different stuff. And by the time they're down here, so
the goose wise spec is probably my favorite. Yeah. It eats a lot like beef. I mean, if it's cooked
they're tasty. Yeah. I never shot a spec until a couple of years ago in Saskatchewan, which is 3 provinces over from me. because we don't get them where I live. We get mainly Canada's, and a few hours to the east of me there's a snow goose flyway. But yeah, I'd never shot a speck before, but they're delicious.
The Canada goose is all right. It really depends on what it's been eating, though. Because we've got a buddy Charles that goes out to Oklahoma and kills them and brings us some back.
Yep.
That Canada goose tastes way different than the ones that are flying the river here.
Yeah, interesting.
So it has to be a diet thing, and they're killing them in peanut fields out there.
Okay.
It's just a different flavor.
Yeah.
Well, they're eating nothing but peanuts. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be good.
I recently found a recipe. I did Canada goose schnitzel, and it was really good. I pounded
it out and fried.
Yeah, I pounded it out and fried it, and it was real tasty. But yeah, sous vide's great for the goose breasts, and I like doing like a barbecue spice on the legs and smoking them, and then you have to add some liquid to kind of braise it out a bit, or barbecue sauce. But like a pulled goose leg, really really good. But they take 5 to 7 hours in a crock pot or a smoker, and you got to really
goose leg gumbo.
Goose leg gumbo.
I've done that actually. I went to Louisiana for the first time and brought back all kinds of Cajun spices, gumbo, jambalaya, stuff like seasonings and stuff. Because Cajun's definitely new to me, and I geeked out on it. Was it gumbo or jambalaya? I might have made a Canada goose jambalaya, but it was really fun. I like playing with those flavors.
Yeah. And then I guess yesterday, did anybody hunt yesterday morning?
We didn't do much morning hunting.
We had a late night.
We went out and we made a ride. Yeah, we had a late night. See, when you go thermal hog hunting until 1 a.m.,
it's hard to get up in the morning.
Yeah, we had a good breakfast and we kind of hung out.
And then we hunted the afternoon. So, Mike, you guided the guide to get.
I got
guide the guide.
I got screwed on the guides.
Well, I mean, Michael attested that. Don't guide the guide. He knows what he's talking about, doesn't he, Michael?
Well, unless your guide's who I had, and I should have guided my guide.
Yeah, our story went totally different. But so how'd that evening hunt go?
So, anyways, we changed farms, come over to this side, and I took Michael out there, and I knew that the does where we was hunting in that stand usually come through that gap, cross over that ditch, and anyways, I kind of told him, face back this way. Deer should come from that direction. Wind's blowing from that direction too. So good day to be in this stand. Anyway, so we take a different rifle this time. We take my gun, and anyways, it's a 350 Legend, and
more manageable.
More manageable. But anyways, I didn't give Michael any instructions on the gun. The trigger pull is way different on that gun than it is on your.
You look at my ticket, it's gonna go. That one you got.
You gotta. It's got a little bit of a draw on the trigger. So, anyways, we were sitting there, and a group of mature does come out on the neighbor's property, walking across his cow pasture. We could see them across the ditch, and anyways,
that's a good ways. That's
it was a few hundred yards, And Michael's like, "There's some deer there." Well, man, I had to go to the bathroom, and I was like, "Dude," before they get up here, I got to get up.
Oh God!
Before they get,
that's what we do.
And I step out of the stand and start pissing off the steps of the stand, and you can hear the deer going. And I was like, "Please, God, tell me that's not those does blowing into me." And Michael said, "I think they see it."
Were they still several hundred yards away?
Yeah.
Then? Oh, there ain't no way.
Away, and the wind was.
There could have been one right down in that little dip there.
They were still in that pasture.
But they were downwind of you because the wind was coming out south. They were downwind of us,
but I don't know what they were looking dead up there. It's blowing at me, and I was like, ain't this great? I'm guiding this dude, and I done run all the damn deer off.
Standing the fence unzipped, deer's blowing at.
Might have been whistling. It wasn't blowing, it was whistling.
So the hunt was ruined?
I thought the hunt was ruined, so by that, Michael got out, and he had to go too, so we both were like,
might as well. You said might as well. He's probably been holding it all day.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, well, might as well now.
This butthole just run all the deer off. Might as well get out here and I can just doo-doo now. But anyways, the deer, they leave and they run back off the way they came. And I was trying to be high-spirited about this and positive. I was like, yeah, they're probably going to go down, cross the ditch down there and come back around.
I got them patterned.
They did. They did come back.
I got them patterned.
Yeah.
So anyway, we sit there and no more deer, not a single thing. And, it seemed like hours, because I feel like I'm this big.
Yeah.
I just done run the damn mature does all we were looking for. And anyways, the deer come back. Michael says, hey, here comes some deer just walked out down here at the end. And I looked and I was like, good, here's a doe. Thank God. And it was like, whew,
same deer.
Saved.
Yeah, I think it was
same group.
It was like 4 or 5 of them both times. But
yeah. But anyways, they walk out in the food plot, start feeding, and
had to lay another one down.
Yeah, got to lay, and I completely missed the first shot. And the funny thing was, I thought I was, so my follow-up shot connected and put her down, but that first shot, I thought I had wounded her. So I'm like, oh crap, I got to like make a follow-up shot and kill this deer. And when we gutted her last night, we took the skin off. It's like that first shot was a total complete miss. Yeah. Total complete miss. And it was just because it was a different rifle. I should have tried to shoot it first just to put it on paper, but I was pulling the trigger and it wasn't going off. And I think I kind of jerked it to get it to go off and pulled it obviously, but yeah, it was funny. She started running, and I was like, "Oh crap, she's wounded. I got to finish this." And thankfully,
did y'all get straight down, or did y'all let her lay there?
No, she ran. And
so y'all went and hopped down, went to find blood.
Yeah.
But did you find a blood trail?
Found the blood trail, but then we lost it, and then it started to get dark. I just had a little headlamp, so Mikey went back to get a spotlight, and by the time he had come back, I had found it. So
okay,
it didn't go far.
Yeah, she didn't run too terribly far. She just wasn't dropping a whole lot of blood for some reason.
Yeah. Well, she probably was, but y'all went from the blood trail before to a normal blood trail. Yeah. Y'all got spoiled.
But that really helps us because we have to shoot doe, and I think if you want to, that's one of the tools that anybody can do, or one method to, you want to see bigger bucks, kill some doe.
Yeah.
And so we figured I guess this property's probably only had, that's probably the third doe.
Oh wow.
And so we need to we still have probably 6 more we need to shoot off this place before the end of the season. We don't have very many more weeks. So
and I'm a meat hunter.
So we appreciate you coming and shooting. I don't care if it has horns or not. I'm putting it down.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm the same way, dude. We love to eat them. We love to cook them. And, man,
you can't eat the horns.
That's right.
They say.
All right.
So,
it was good.
It was fun. And then last night we came back and we threw down. We cooked. So Mark did ribs 2 ways. We wanted to give you the Memphis rib experience, a Memphis dry rib and a wet rib. We did a pork butt overnight. You came in and blew us away with some first. So we kind of did this in courses. And you did a duck charcuterie board. Then you can just tell us real quickly about what you brought.
I brought a few things from the restaurant. I brought a cured foie gras torchon. I brought a duck liver pate, which was really smooth. You call it a parfait as well. It was like a really smooth, spreadable pate. And then I brought a cured smoked duck breast. So we sliced everything. I put the pate in a ramekin with some cracked black pepper on top. And the cured duck stuff just goes really well with like a sweet kind of jam or jelly. And I think you had some pepper jelly in the fridge that went really, really well with it. But
grainy mustard and pepper jelly, and it was phenomenal. All 3 of those had different flavors. But it was, I've never experienced pate or foie gras. Mm-hmm. That's the fanciest stuff that's ever been at this deer camp. I promise you. We've had some good meat, but we ain't never had nothing that fancy.
I wanted to bring something different, something that you guys probably
that's what I was going to say.
Eat all the time.
That stuff was so good. I ate so much of that stuff, like my guts. Recognize that, and they're not right now.
So all we did was meat.
I think I ate too much of it.
We didn't eat any vegetables, no carbs. We had beer, we had whiskey, and we had meat.
Yeah.
And so next we took some of those you took the gamekeeper quail.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you kind of spatchcocked them, and then took out the rib cages.
Yep.
And did some kind of an Asian stylish glaze.
One of the things we do at the restaurant is yakitori. Which is Japanese. It's like a Japanese grill, like on a hibachi grill. And I just did like a variation of that sauce, which is like a sweet soy and citrus kind of sauce.
So you used like it was some brown sugar, some honey, some rice wine vinegar.
Yeah, and I think a bit of lemon juice.
And a little,
and then cook that down to like a syrup to glaze the quail.
And then squeeze. Did you? I noticed you had lime on the plate.
Squeezed lime on it. Yeah, I was looking for. I was going to put cilantro and lime on it.
Yeah.
But that I just finished it with some lime juice. The brio was a little hot, and the skin got away from me. It was pretty charred, but it actually tasted really.
It really gave it a good flavor. I
gave
thought.
It a good crunch and nice kind of
having that texture on the outside. It was really good, but you did. This was live fire, Mark. Yeah. You stoked up.
That's my fault because I asked him. I said, "How big a fire you want?" He said, "I want a big hot one." I guess he didn't understand who he was talking to.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a big hot one.
When the blower came out and put the turbocharge on.
And then we started. I put the venison rack on there. I brought a deer rack, French bone-in rack, like a lamb rack. and I put one of my favorite spices for deer. We call it an ash spice at the restaurant. We take cinnamon, star anise, clove, allspice, juniper, and toast it till it's black.
Yeah.
And then put it into a blender, make a really fine powder, and then roll the loin in that, and then give it a good sear before going in a smoker. And you end up with almost like a coffee rub kind of crust on it.
So is that like a Asian inspired seasoning, or is it where would you say that comes from?
I'm not sure.
Because it had like that star anise and all those like Chinese 5-star spice flavors, but
and I like juniper, and I just wanted to experiment with different flavors for game. I liked the black exterior and the red center, like just the color contrast, and I like those flavors with wild game. I've been using a lot of juniper and allspice and in some wild boar recipes, and that was just sort of a variation of that.
It kind of reminded me of almost like a Turkish or a Moroccan-ish type seasoning without the heat.
Yes.
Because, a lot of times you get those and they add the peppers.
Yeah.
And it spices that up, but it still had, it's got an earthiness to it, but you get all those smells and you could taste that in it. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really unique the way, you professionally trust that rack. Like that was what, I think Mikey got it, recorded it.
Oh, yeah.
But how he tied it up all the way down so it made a perfect shape.
Yep.
And then it was like cracked salt, cracked black pepper, dust it with the ash seasoning, and just make sure it's coated and let it sit while the Mark was getting the brio hot.
Yep.
And then was it cast iron?
I like to sear it in a cast iron pan. And you don't have to. I think if you sprayed it with a bit of oil or something, you could just grill it. But I like putting it in a cast iron pan to really trying to get a crust on that and get that seasoning, on the outside.
And it's not done. You're just trying to lock in that sear in that seasoning.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the restaurant, we'll put it into a slow kind of oven around 300, something like that. And then just cook. But we put it on the smoker, which was great. Added to the earthiness of it. And it was on there for about half an hour, maybe 35 minutes at 300 degrees.
Yeah. Well, it was. I think it hit 120, and you let it rest.
Yeah. The texture on that was phenomenal. Out of this world.
Yeah.
Dude.
And we got a bunch of rednecks to listen. You said venison. This is not whitetail.
Yeah.
You said what?
This was red stag. So this was a red stag, and they're a little bit bigger. They're sort of in between a whitetail and an elk kind of size.
That's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of an elk chop. Once you got it
I've never had that texture on a whitetail,
dude. So have you ever cut out a rack of like a whitetail deer 100%. Like that?
I do that with either pigs and bear. I'll take a Sawzall and cut the ribs off, but then you leave the rib on the back strap, and then you take your Sawzall. If you cut the meat off the spine, but you leave it attached on the rib side, and you get your Sawzall in there and cut the spine out, but you still got the rib bones on the loin.
Do you actually like split the spine? Are you worried about that on a wild animal, or do you try to like avoid it and trim it like down the chine side?
I'll trim it down the chine side. Yeah.
Try not to break into that spinal cavity.
Yeah. With the CWD. So we don't, like where I live, there hasn't been any confirmed CWD in the wild animals yet. There were some local farms on the Quebec side, like Quebec is right beside Ontario. Some farms that were shut down, and they had to actually call all their animals because they had CWD on the farms. But I don't think there's been any wild animals recorded with it yet, anyway, for us. So, but I know down here it's a lot different. It can be a big problem.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you want to talk a little bit about the ribs?
Yeah, no, we just done a simple, Memphis wet, Memphis dry rib. It was pretty laid back. We got pretty lucky because I was wanting to get them done in time so we all could go sit yesterday afternoon. And we put them on about noon and ran the pit 275, 300, and normal recipe. We wrapped them in 2 hours, got a good smoke on them, and simple recipe.
You seasoned them a little different though, didn't you? Because you were doing two styles.
Yeah, so initially the dry rub that went on them was the same. The only time that the seasoning changed was when they come out of the wrap, and they were in the wrap an hour. So y'all didn't see this, but usually I like to go about an hour and a half in the wrap, but that would have put us a little late getting in the stand. So I cranked the temp on up about 350, and they were in the wrap 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and chimped them. They were good, put them in the cooler, and we went to the stand. And we held them, longer than I planned on.
Like 2.5 hours, wasn't it?
Well, I usually try to hold them, 2.5 hours, but time we got them out, heck, it was almost 8 o'clock. So they probably held 5 hours.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. They was because we hunted till nearly 6.
Yeah, and then we had to dress the deer, and we were cooking the other stuff. So, but they held fine. But when they come out of the wrap, I done just a sweet barbecue rub, the barbecue rub on the wet rib, 50-50 sauce, and on the dry rib, I done a mixture of our Mississippi grind because it's a lot savorier and it's a little coarser. And then we got a new rub we're working on that's got vinegar and hot sauce powder, stuff like that. So that was the Memphis dry rib. To me, it blew that wet rib away, in my opinion. Were really good, but
they're both, even the dry rib, like I pulled the bone off and it was dripping. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never seen a dry rib dripping. It was so juicy. It was delicious.
That's the way I want to eat them.
Yeah.
Dry style, man. You can have the sweet stuff on a rib. I've done that.
Well, you can sit down and enjoy that.
Yeah. It's a eating rib.
Yeah.
But
if you want sauce on it, just have it on the side, dab it in it. But
we'll talk more about mine and Malcolm's hunt yesterday evening.
Yeah.
Kind of how it went. But we should have just stayed back and cooked ribs.
We weren't near as successful as y'all.
Oh, we had a successful hunt.
The guy did not.
The guy did not guide.
Yeah.
The hunter that pulled the trigger blew a suppressor 75 yards out in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
We still ain't quite figured that one out yet, but
did you find it?
We found it.
Oh, yeah.
It was long darted out in the middle of the food plot.
I thought he was going to hit the deer with it. It scared the crap out of me. I got to thinking about that going to bed last night. I was like, God, we're lucky.
We're lucky.
We're lucky we didn't get hurt.
So
we're lucky we didn't because, when we were just shooting it.
Tech Tip Tuesday from Mark Williams. Make sure that thread and everything is good on your suppressor.
Use your rod, line it up.
Make sure everything's good.
Yeah.
Don't get comfortable because it will quickly uncomfortable you. But, well,
Michael,
we got to get you on a plane.
Yeah, I know you got to get back today, but we really appreciate you coming down here and hanging out. Thank you so much.
I'm very grateful to be here and making some new friends and I can't thank you enough.
Learned a lot.
Tell everybody where they can find you. I know you do socials too.
Yeah, we're on the socials. So the restaurant is at Antler Kitchen Bar on Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. My personal one is at The Hunter Chef. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, thehunterchef.com. The book's available on my website if you want a signed one, Amazon, Indigo, all that stuff. The book's on there. And stay tuned for number 2 soon.
And where's the restaurant?
Restaurant is in Toronto, Canada. We are an hour and a half drive from Buffalo. So for any Buffalo fans out there, we're a very quick drive.
That's awesome. And I definitely want to come out, check out the
anytime.
restaurant.
I would love to have you guys.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. But man, it's always great to meet people, hang out and meet new friends. And
likewise.
Yeah. This is our deer camp, man. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks, fellas.
Mark, you want to take us on out today? Or Mike, you got anything we need to say before we get out of here?
Yeah. So the contest ended. We got 3 winners. You should be contacted by Tyler by now. If you do see an email from Buck Junkies or Tyler,
it's legit.
It's legit. We'll get the names for next week.
Yeah. I left the names in my backpack across the road. But anyways, yeah. So if you get an email from us, if you don't accept it in a certain amount of days, we're going to pick somebody else. But those 3 people should be contacted by now, and hopefully we're going to be shipping their stuff out if we hadn't already.
Good deal.
Well, man, we appreciate y'all listening. Michael, thank you again, dude. It was awesome. I learned a lot and definitely enjoyed this weekend. Buck Junkies, y'all stick around. We got a ton of great content coming out. We've got a lot to catch up on from the hunting season and winter. Y'all hang tight. We're going to get to it. But y'all get ready because this is going to be a good year this year, and we're fixing to take this to a whole nother level, and we appreciate it. Y'all got any questions, shoot us a message, and we'll see y'all next time.
We gone.